an entire world is ready
for you to start your career teaching the path to wellness.
Mastering the science of mindfulness.
And the art of coaching.
To help clients achieve mental, emotional, and physical betterment of life.
Through movement,
nutrition,
recovery, and regeneration.
Because impacting one person impacts a family.
Impacting a family impacts a community.
And impacting a community impacts the world.
Become an NASM certified wellness coach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Master Instructor Roundtable. I'm Regional Master Instructor Marty Miller, here as always with my fellow Regional Master Instructor and most importantly, dear friend, Miss Wendy Batts. Wendy, how's it going today?
Oh, so good, Marty. How are you?
Oh, fabulous. Just living the dream. And I'm excited about today's topic. Exactly. This week, I am actually still in my region. I am in Delray Beach, Florida at my old country club that I left to go to my current position. I am in Meisner Country Club. Hence
there you go.
See the little motivational thing here in the employee lounge. So it's always good. Always good.
I'm sure they're happy to have you back there, but it's literally, where's Marty this week? You know, you just never know. So
I will be in another place next week as well.
Well, there you have it.
Right.
Well, I'm excited about this topic today because I always tell my clients, and Marty, I know you've done this as well, that age is just a number. And, some days you feel like you're really young and you're energetic, and other days you wake up and you feel like, oh my goodness, I just gained, I feel like I'm 10 years older than I really should be. So we're going to actually talk about the differences between health span and lifespan, because there is a significant difference. And I think the research and the information is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about this topic. You know, even when I did my doctorate in health sciences, I'm looking at, healthcare versus disease care. That's a whole nother conversation. But it's, the quality of life we can live as we move forward, and having the ability to do what you want to do as you age, I think is critically important. And really what you do your younger age does set you up better for success later in life. And, I think it just comes down to doing a lot of the little things frequently give you a better chance of having that really high quality lifespan.
And I think as personal trainers, or anybody that's in the kind of the fitness industry, it's important when we talk about, being on a, healthy journey, there is something to be said with that. And, it's not just eating right. It's not about just getting a good night's sleep every once in a while. It's really trying to make your whole life, as healthy as you possibly can. Because like you said, you're just setting yourself up to what's going to happen, years later. And, unfortunately, what we do in our younger days can affect us later in life, even though at the time it seems like it's fun and it's not going to impact us, but it does.
Exactly. So we'll jump into kind of our bullet points today. So clearly we want to talk about what do we mean by health span versus lifespan, just so we're on the same page. I think that this is going to become more normal nomenclature moving forward in the industry, but I think it's good to kind of set that. We've already kind of touched on why it's important, but we'll dig into a little bit more detail on that. And then clearly, what can NASM fitness professionals do regarding this important topic?
Well, I mean, I'm excited to dive on in. If you guys are just joining Marty Miller and I on today's Master Instructor Roundtable, we're talking about the differences between health span and lifespan. And of course, I am Wendy Batts, and Marty Miller is going to also be here telling us all this incredible information. And so let's actually just talk about the definitions of the differences. And I think, Marty, when we talk about lifespan, we're talking about the total numbers of years that we live. So, it's pretty much self-explanatory, like when were you born, when did you die, and what were the years in between the two? And there you go. And so, but when we're talking about like health span, we're really looking at like those years that we live healthy lives within the lifespan that we're living. Because when we're looking at the research, it's kind of scary to say, okay, you know what, the average age is going to be here. However, you're only going to, on average, be healthy for these many years. So you've got 10 to 15 years of living unhealthy with some sort of disease or chronic issues. And, it's actually, it's kind of scary when you think about it, and so that's the differences between the two. How long are you living, and how are you living, or how many years are you living the healthy life?
And a funny side note on this. So I've been, as you, Wendy, we started this early in our career and we've never gotten out of this career. We've changed, jobs and things like that, but we've always been in the health, fitness, wellness, performance market industry. So I remember years ago when I first got into this and became very passionate, I was trying to help my family, and God bless my mom. She was like, it is what it is. She kind of rolled in the fact that you're kind of predestined as you age. And I remember now, this is 25 years ago. I didn't think maybe I should have really spent some more time on it. I could have come up with this. But I told my mom, like, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm not going to live a day longer because I do what I do, but I'm going to live a healthier life. So all the way back 25 plus years ago or more, I kind of understood that it's not always going to extend your life. I truly believe statistically we know it will, but I just wanted to have a healthy life throughout my life. So I'm kind of happy now that there is more study behind it. There is more conversation about it. And, I think that's key, is how healthy can we be for as long as we can be?
Yeah. And you know what I found interesting, and I used to work for a company that ended up purchasing another company. So it acquired another company, and they had something called the real age test. And, it's actually multiple pages of questions about your history, your family history, what were you currently doing today, your sleep habits, your stress habits, your work, what is it on a scale from this to this? I mean, so they're pretty, deep questions where you really have to think about it. And then at the very end, it spits out a number. And so it's like, if I'm this age, based on the way that I'm answering this questionnaire, my quote, real age is, such and such. And, I have to do that every single year now for my insurance in order to get a discount on the insurance. So it is something that, of course, our field is really taking more seriously. And, I always find it fascinating, like, well, how young am I going to be in comparison to how old I really am? And, and it's kind of like, dun, 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 and I want to see the difference from year to year. Luckily I am younger than my quote, real age. And,
you're 21 instead of 25.
How did you know, Marty? Yes. And, but that's how I get my discount from my insurance, is I have to fulfill that requirement. And so our producer just laughed. So I don't know how to feel about that, just so you know.
Right. But it's interesting that you mentioned, Wendy. So, I've done the questionnaires, and I again, just like education, there's things that I invest in for my health. So I had the opportunity to do something similar, and it was just really deep dive blood work. And I was interested, and man, it was a deep panel. It went way deeper than like your standard cholesterol and things like that. And it did use those markers to, and I was 8 years younger, and I was excited about that because one, it's a significant number, but two, like my lifestyle is not the easiest with travel and things like that. And I purposely focus on how to stay consistent. How do I get my sleep? How do I get my exercise in? How do I eat healthy when I'm on the road? It's not by accident. And I know, Wendy, how crazy and chaotic your life is with all your work you do. You've got a young 6-year-old boy, and like you have to purposely, and I won't, Tony's is obviously a big part of that chaos in a good way, but we love Tony. But, it's easy to get off track. It's easy. I mean, I really think, because I had my kids younger in the sense, so like my life is kind of coming back to a little bit more of a structured routine, but there's always something that happens in life. And all of a sudden 5 years, 10 years goes by, and you're like, man, I kind of got off. And that's where we talked about it at the very beginning, is if we can do it earlier, you're going to benefit from it later in life. And that's why I think consistency is the key.
Absolutely. And yes, those of you guys that have 6-year-old kids, you understand how hard life can be sometimes.
Eating the chicken nuggets.
Mac and cheese, chicken nuggets. Yes, that is a daily. Yes, anything to get him to eat these days, he can have it. So, but on the Master Instructor Roundtable today with myself, Wendy Batts, and Marty Miller, we're talking about the differences between lifespan versus healthspan. Like, what is the difference? Why is that important? What are ways to think about this, especially if you are a personal trainer and you're working with clients, because everyone wants to look younger. And I know, Marty, we're going to talk about this probably in detail too. And, there are so many different things out there that can fill your wrinkles or, enhance certain parts of your body, or, going to get, tummy tucks and a lot of different things. But, when you're looking at life expectancy itself, when you're looking back of where we were and where we are today, I mean, there's significant differences. So if you look at the first bullet point here, in 1919, the average life expectancy for people in the US was about 56 years old. And of course, now when you're looking at it then in comparison to today, it's 79. And, when you think about it, we've grown with medicine. We've grown with the understanding, I think, of health and wellness and exercise and being able to, know what we should be doing in relation to what is the norm. I mean, I know back in the day, my parents smoked cigarettes. They didn't roll down the windows. I never wore a seatbelt. I drank out of the garden hose. I was out and about until, nighttime. And so it's like, you know what? That was just the normal way of life. And my grandparents were the same way. And so, we're learning so much more of things that we know is right and wrong in comparison to, what are the better choices. And I think too, with food, and having a better understanding about nutrition and the supplements and everything, I think all of that plays an important role in how we can really try to change our health span.
And when you look at the leading cause of death, they're all behavioral based, right? It's things that you have control over in your life. Where back in 1919 and even earlier, you could catch, a disease, malaria, things like that. So we've gone from those type of things being the leading cause of death to basically, where's your focus? Are you focused on your health and wellness? So knowing that what's coming down the pipeline, the more people like me and you that do these surveys and do the blood tests, they're going to have, longer or more data to put artificial intelligence in to get even better predictors. But the one thing I can tell you is it's not going to be, we have enough information now, you have to stop exercising. That's always going to be critical. And then it comes down to why NASM is so important. Because if you can't move well, you can't move often. If you can't move often, you can't move with any type of intensity. That's why this is such an important topic for all of our NASM fitness professionals, because you are a key part of people improving both their health span and lifespan. People need to move. People need to move well, and they need to be able to move without pain. And then everything else opens up.
Even this morning, I worked with a client and we spent 30 minutes on the flexibility side of it. And I was like, you know what, this is the most important thing for you. He's 70 years old. He loves to go play golf. He's very active, and he's traveling the world now because he can. And it's like, you know what, I've got to, like you said, you've got to be able to move better. And in order for them, for him, especially to be able to play and do the things that he wants to do. And he does care about, how he feels, how he plays, and wants to, still feel like he did when he was 50. So, and when you're looking at this too, like you said, Marty, when people are getting into this profession, because we have so many new trainers that constantly come in because they see the benefits and they enjoy working out. And it's just so much more than that. It's really taking someone and putting them on that fitness journey and being able to get them to where they want to be long term. And, we play a significant role in that. And, that's something that I think has kept me in the industry. I'm sure the same as you, Marty, because, when people are constantly like, hey, this is, I wasn't able to do this 10 years ago and look at me now, and they can see a difference and they were younger then. I think that's a huge, that says a lot about what we do in our industry.
Right. And for those of you just joining us on the Master Instructor Roundtable this week, I'm Marty Miller here with my dear friend, Miss Wendy Batts. We are talking about health span versus lifespan. And Wendy, one of the things that, I've always tried to get people to focus when I work with them is let's focus on the process of living a healthier lifestyle. Let's work on understanding, I have to say it, that fitness is that race with no finish line, because a lot of people come into fitness because they want a cosmetic change, which that's great. You have a goal, you have motivation, that gets you in. But our job is to shift them on a lifelong process, because what if they, first and foremost, pick the wrong cosmetic goal? They may, no matter what great shape they get in, they may never be able to pick that. They may never hit that cosmetic goal, but they think it's a failure where they've lowered their cholesterol, they've lowered their resting heart rate, they've prevented, diabetes or being pre-diabetic, they're increasing their health span. They may not understand that, and they may only look in the mirror at cosmetics. So I respect that, and we want to work towards it. But you and I've always said, if I get you in tremendous shape, the cosmetics will fall into place best they can, because you're able to do different levels of exercise, increase intensity, things like that. So, I've always had this passion to shift people's focus down this journey, and that's why I love this topic so much.
Well, and I think it's important too that you've got to love who you are, and we're all made differently. And of course, when you're reading these magazines and you see these models, and they, people look a certain way and everything, you don't know how they feel inside, because they may be really skinny or something, but they also may be unhealthy with how they're living their life, and they're not eating like you know the proper diet that most of us would normally do. And so I think, to your point, Marty, we all want to look a certain way and feel a certain way, but we also, I think, have to dig deep into who we are and be happy with what we have. And if we're not, we can make those changes that we need to make in order to look a certain way and feel a certain way.
Love it. Very good. So we covered this. So let's continue on with our next slide here and see some of the other great information we're providing. So baby boomers, this is a huge population now. They're coming into gyms, coming into facilities. This is going to be potentially one of your largest parts of your clientele base. So it's kind of important to understand this demographic. So when you look at the baby boomers here in the US, adults over 65 expected to more than double by 2060, outnumbering children for the first time. So we're going to have this big increase in that generation of people that are 60, 65, and they're going to want to continue to be healthy. So this is a perfect target market for us, and we can help them understand this health span. It's going to be important for them. And then I like this other bullet point here. In medical school, we're told that our aim should be to help our patients die young as late as possible. So when you read that again, I like that, right? We're all going to have that part of our life, but we want to be as healthy as we go into those final stages. So that way we just lived a very rewarding life, and we weren't kind of restricted by musculoskeletal issues or other disease. We want to live a healthy life as long as possible.
Yes. And I really love that quote as well, because it says so much. But then also too, when we think about the OPT model, we need to think about, the importance of why we do what we do. We've talked so much, Marty, about, the extended warm up, why you should roll, why we should do certain stretches, but then also, working on the core to really help with alignment and postural issues. And then of course, balance. And so, when you're designing programs, especially as we see this population is going to continue to age, we are going to be working with older clients, and that's here to stay. We all know that, because as you saw, we're seeing people live longer. We need to be smart in our programming. We need to think of people not as seniors, but active older adults. And, there are a bunch of courses that I know NASM's put out there, the new one being the senior course. And I mean, I wrote the chapter on program design, and that's the one thing I stress the most is do not design programs based on age. Design programs based on goals that are achievable and smart. And then also design programs based on how someone's moving and where are they starting and where they want to be. And, one of the reasons I'm so passionate about NASM is we provide that blueprint and those guidelines. So therefore, it doesn't matter someone's age, because unfortunately, I've got younger people that don't move as well as some of my older people. And, we're seeing that more and more because they're sitting down playing video games, they're picking up bad habits, they're always on the computer. There's just so many changes of what Marty, you and I probably did as children, being outside until dark, coming in when it was dinner time. And then it was like you sit down, do your homework. Now people are sitting all day. They come home, they have a ton of homework, more so than they probably ever have before. Or they just sit down and, they're watching television, they're on the computer, on their electronics. And, so we're seeing a bunch of positive changes, but then we're seeing some negative changes too. And, we just want to keep in mind, you have to get people to move.
And I could not imagine how many miles I rode a bike a day as a kid. And I was very good at the sprint intervals when I heard the ice cream truck. I'm just saying.
Oh, me too.
I could cover some distance and get back because I had to go, right. So you don't see that anymore, but at least I got my ice cream.
Well, right now when you see a truck, you're like, okay, who's inside? Is it creepy? Is, like back and forth, back in the day, it wasn't a big deal. The ice cream man was the ice cream man. He was like, right. Oh, when you saw
it's funny how you could hear that from like miles away, that little jingle.
Absolutely. Now it's like, okay, here's a man driving a truck that's ringing a bell. And it's like, okay, what did he do with the ice cream? Where did it come from? Is it safe? Unfortunately, that's where we are.
Are you saying the good old days, Wendy? I definitely, the hose, that was me too. So
Do what
Drinking
you got
water.
to do.
Gotta do what you gotta do. All right, so let's move on. Or we'll really date ourselves here when we start talking about cartoons and TV shows.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is a really good graph, Marty, because, why is this so important? When we're talking about like Healthspan, it means, like we're talking about someone that's living their best, healthiest life without any kind of, being chronically sick or being diagnosed with some sort of, cancer or diseases. And so when you're looking, unfortunately, at the deaths per year, and then you're looking at the different, the ages and stuff, I mean, there's it's statistically when people are getting diagnosed, it's like, okay, if someone has cancer, some people may die within 3 months, some people may live 3 or 4 more years, but they're going through different types of treatments, and you're getting chemo or radiation and stuff, which is really, really hard on your body and really hard on the system. Of course, we all want to live as long as we can, but what can we do as a preventative when we see some of these? Well, heart disease. We've talked the importance about cardio and really getting people moving better and feeling better. Same thing with, lung cancer. Is it something that's genetic? Is it something that you are contributing to that by smoking or doing some of, being in, pollutant areas? Some of that we can control, some of it we cannot. So, when you're looking at some of these, I mean, obviously they're within our control. Some of them are not, but, those numbers have definitely gone up since 1919 for sure.
And you know what, Wendy, I've never seen a study yet that says exercise increases your chances of any of these. Every research shows that the fitter you are, the better you have to either slide through these better than others or prevent. So again, we have not seen research that says by exercising, you've increased your chance of any one of these. So that's where it's so critical for us to get the word out and the message out to people and all the amazing fitness professionals here. You really hold the key to healthcare. I almost did healthcare versus disease care in my doctorate studies, but we do great with disease care. We keep sick people alive very well. But personal trainers are the ones that prevent people from having to get into that disease care. So we truly, I wish they would rename it. We are healthcare, right? You need the disease care. Do not get me wrong. But I think sometimes we rely on it too much. We wait till people get sick, and then we start to treat the sickness, where we need to be so much more proactive in what we do and what we find joy in each and every day. We need to get more and more people to participate in it. And if they enjoy it and it's not painful and they progress, they're more likely to stick with it.
Yes. And on the Master Instructor Roundtable today, myself, Wendy Batts, and Marty Miller are talking about the differences between Healthspan and Lifespan. And we've talked about why it's so, so important. And just if you guys are just now tuning in, the differences between the two is how long are you living a healthy life versus how long are you just living? And of course, we all want to live that healthier life, because really when you start to get sick and you're not able to go out and enjoy life and do the things that you really, really enjoy, are you living? And I think that's one of the main things that Marty and I want to express is we have a chance in the field and industry that we're in to help so many people really live their best life for as long as possible.
That's the goal. We're going to lead by example. So this just shows, to me, the graphic is perfect, right? This just shows everything that we're talking about. So when you look at the health span, right, on one axis and our lifespan on the other axis, is you want that gap at the end to be as minimal as possible, right? We're all going to age. We're all going to have some decline. But what you don't want to see is at age 50, that start to fall quicker. And now there's a wider gap between 50 and 90. Like, let's say that's when the person passed away. So the goal is to keep that health span going as far into the lifespan and have a gradual decrease.
Yeah. And shameless plug here, but I'm going to proudly talk about it, is, Ken Miller and myself on Random Fit talked about blue zones. And Marty, I know that you are very familiar with those as well. And when we were talking about blue zones, it was talking about different places and different countries where people were living an extremely longer, amount of years in comparison to other places, not just nationally, but worldwide. And why? What made that change? And so if you didn't listen to it, you definitely want to download it, tune in, because I'm very proud of that episode, because I thought we brought in some really good information. But Marty, it's the same kind of thing here. They're living very healthy lifestyles. They're growing their own food. They're staying active in gardens. They're not stressing about retirement. They're not stressing about about things that are out of their control of what's happening in the world. They're actually just living day by day, looking at the positives of what's happening with them. They're focusing on their family. They're doing things that we all know we should be doing. But unfortunately, we let life and stress and things that are out of our control take over. And, I think that episode with this one fits really close together on the importance of how do we live a better, healthier life, and what can we do to live longer, like truly live, versus just, sit there and wait for our last breath to happen.
Yeah, that's not the goal. But did you tell everyone why they're called blue zones?
Well, that was because of the highlighter, right? They were using that as I paid attention. I did the research. So yes, they were called blue zones because when they were actually identifying the places in the world that had people that were living the longest, they were using a blue marker. And so that's
exactly
why
right. You would think it was much more scientific than that. That's
like the blue blockers or something like that.
Right.
Like
I saw there is a cool, I think maybe on Netflix, or how much I travel. I did watch a documentary on that. It was really interesting. Maybe it was on an airplane. I don't know, but I'll try to find it for you for later. But it was really fascinating. So
I think we brought it up. I think Ken brought it up actually in one of our podcasts. So again, if you didn't do it, you definitely want to check it out. It's called Blue Zones. Random Fit. Download it today.
I'm on it.
So I think the key takeaways is really just understanding that there is a difference between how people are living versus how long they're living. And, if we can actually help, kind of change the narrative for people are living healthier lives and helping them with a life journey of, teaching people of better nutritional habits, sleeping longer, going and trying to exercise, adding cardio and increasing, getting your heart rate up at, different times, doing a little bit of something every day is going to add, benefits long term. I think that's one of the number one things we wanted to talk about. And really too, what can you do to program yourself differently, as well as your programming within a gym, or when you're working with clients, how you can help them, kind of rewire their brain on trying to think more of a healthier life, and letting them know that just because they're saying this is their age on paper, they don't have to feel that way. And, and I think just kind of providing them with some of these fun facts, like, hey, you know what, there are fun little like quizzes and surveys and stuff that you can take. Because again, I felt so much better when I saw that I was actually younger than my quote real age. And, I thought, there's something to be said with that. And more people are talking about it.
Right. I couldn't agree more than anything you said. And I think if we can feel comfortable talking about it to our clients, it does help shift their focus. It actually takes some pressure off them, because they might be looking at some, in their mind, insurmountable goal of weight loss or whatever the cosmetic type of thing might be. And if they realize, hey, I'm in this for the long haul and I'm going to be patient with it, I'm going to progress. So NASM Fitness Professionals, you have a huge opportunity to really change people's mindsets and really help them you may only train them for the next 2 or 3 years, but 20 years from now, you have still had an impact because they're still on that fitness journey because they understand what it's all about.
Yeah. And if they're living longer and they love you, then you're probably going to have them for a lot longer with your business. So, it's a really good business opportunity as well.
I agree.
Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode with Marty Miller and I today on the Master Instructor Roundtable, talking about health spans versus lifespans. And if you have any follow-up questions for us, or you want to contact us, you can email me at wendy.batts@nasm.org, or you can find me on Instagram at wendy.batts13.
And then my information is going to pop right up here from our phenomenal producer. So you'll see my Instagram there, dr.martymiller72 for Instagram, and then email marty.miller@nasm.org. So Wendy, it's always a pleasure. I love this topic. I'm sure you did as well. And everyone that joined us, thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you next week on the Master Instructor Roundtable.